everybody, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be doing the It's Finally Fall book tag. I've been seeing this going around on BookTube for quite a while and I have really wanted to do it, so I'm going to sit down today and answer the questions. I think it's going to be a lot of fun because I've never done a tag video on my channel as of yet, so I'm really excited to share all of my answers to the questions with you, and let's just go ahead and hop into it because there are 11 questions. Question number 1. In fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. The book that I picked for this is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I think that the way George R.R. Martin writes is so beautiful, and he has been able to craft in his books the most in-depth and insane amount of world building that I have ever encountered. Westeros is such a well-developed and rounded world, and every single area of it feels like a own unique country. I love how I can travel in his books from one place to another and see not just differences in season and landscape, but also in customs and culture. Makes the experience I had reading about his world one of the most vivid and unique. And I really think that if you haven't picked up of Game of Thrones yet, you are really missing out because George R.R. Martin has crafted this world that is so easy to get lost in and so diverse and dynamic that it's just one I want to return to over and over and over again. And I honestly really need to get to the sequel soon because his world is one that is just phenomenal and there's always something to explore. So I definitely think that this is one of the books with the most vivid settings. Question number 2. Nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. At first I wasn't really sure what book to pick for this because I honestly tend to stay away from those kind of topics in books because that's why I read, to kind of escape sad things, but then I thought of this book, which I just finished yesterday, and I knew it was the perfect book for this question. And it is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. I actually just got this for my birthday. It was a birthday present from one of my best friends, and I read it in one sitting because it was just so freaking phenomenal, and it completely took my breath away because I hadn't expected a lot from it because it's literally so short, and by the end of it I wished it had been like 3 times longer. This book is about children who have accidentally gone through these doors to other worlds, similar to how Alice fell down the rabbit hole or the children went through the wardrobe to Narnia. However, in this book, they either get thrown out or come back from those worlds and are unable to adjust to living in the real world again. So they go to this boarding school where they kind of learn to move on. And the way that this book kind of deals with loss and grief is in the way that these children that come back don't really feel like our world is their home anymore. And they have to learn how to cope with the fact that they've been separated from a place that fully and completely understands them and feels like their world, their home. And it is interesting to watch the dynamic because all of these children share that, but they're all coping in different ways. As well as the fact that a lot of these children's parents haven't seen their kids sometimes for years. They've thought they've been kidnapped when really they're in these other worlds, and the parents have to deal with the loss of a child as well. So this kind of took that topic, which was actually really heavy and I hadn't expected it, and kind of laid a little bit of a fantasy overlay on top of it, and it made for the most unique reading experience. So I highly, highly recommend this book. I gave it oh my gosh, it was fabulous. So first off, thank you for the present, Cindy, and then also I think that this is a really great book, so definitely recommend it. Question number 3. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. I actually read a lot of nonfiction because I guess I'm like an eternal academic and want to always be learning. But the book that I'm going to be talking about is The Shadow King, The Bizarre Afterlife of King Tut's Mummy by Jo Marchant. Now, I've been like obsessed with ancient Egypt ever since I was a little girl, and so I've done like a lot of personal research on this topic, and I went into this book kind of thinking it would be an interesting read, but I wouldn't really take too much new information from it. But I was really surprised because this book was so in-depth and had so much information in it that I wasn't expecting. It doesn't just trace the origins of King Tut's mummy from like discovery to current times, but it also kind of traces the history of Egyptology and how it's evolved. It also teaches you so much about the mummification process, and Jill Marchand also goes into a lot of detail about all the different theories behind King Tut's death, as well as traces like all the damage that's been done to his mummy since finding it. And what I most liked about this book, it was, in addition to having all this information, it was written for a general audience, so it's not dense and it's not hard to get through. It's very, very much an easy read, but so informative and just also a lot of fun to read. Jill Marchand writes with a very interesting sense of humor, and she approaches the whole concept in a sort of unbiased way. So she does give you her opinion of what happened to Tut at the end, but for the most part she keeps that out of the book, and it was very nice to have that kind of unbiased approach. But I highly recommend this book, especially if you like reading about history but you feel like a lot of the books are too hard or dense to get through. This was a really, really good one. Question number 4. In order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. Now, I feel like when I show my book, I'm going to get laughed at by people, but it was literally the first one that came to mind, and it is the Cullens from Twilight Saga. I still love Twilight to this day. I credit it a lot with kind of reigniting my love of reading in high school. I was kind of starting to fall out of reading, and then I read Twilight, and it reminded me of every reason that I love to read. So in that sense, even though I've read more books that I think are better than this since then, this book still has a very fond place in my heart. But I remember reading it even back all the way then and thinking that the dynamic of the Cullen family was one that I absolutely loved. I loved how fiercely loyal and protective they were of each other, as well as the fact that they have built this family out of what could be construed as a bad thing, and found solace in each other. And I also always loved the way that they sort of, take Bella in and make her into, just another one of their family members, and they treat her no different than the rest of the Cullens. And it's just so nice to watch the way the Cullens are protective of not just their own coven members, but the way that they're protective of other covens who are their friends. And also, who wouldn't want to be a member of a vampire family that's really wealthy and has all this awesome superpowers, basically. As silly as that sounds, I think this is totally one of those friend groups that I would love to be involved in. So I guess another friend group I could say I'd want to be involved in would be Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but this is the first one that came to mind, and I still think it's the number one choice for me. Question number 5. The colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-colored spines. So I have my little pile right here. Let me see if I can pick it up. Of course, I had to pick mostly hardbacks, so it's really heavy. The books that I picked for my spine stack are Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand, Ensnared by A.G. Howard, The Clockwork Scarab by Colleen Gleason, While Beauty Slept by Elizabeth Blackwell, World War Z by Max Brooks, and on top we have City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare. Question number 6. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. This one was also a little bit difficult for me to answer because I don't typically read diary books or things like that, but I ended up going with The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. The reason I picked this book for this category is because our narrator is an old man, and he's telling the story through the manuscript, which is this book, about an experience he had as a young man. In his youth, he went through this horrific haunting experience, and only now does he feel it's safe or the right time to talk about it, and so this book is his manuscript, and you're reading it for the first time, along with him telling it for the first time. So I really liked this book. It was a really quick read, and it was just kind of one of those books that was subtly eerie throughout the whole thing, and by the end, nothing really scary happened per se, but it just leaves you kind of uneasy. I really recommend it. I liked it quite a lot, and I think it would be perfect for around this time of year, especially if you're someone that just scares easy but you still want to read a ghost story. It would be great for you. But also it is technically a story within a story, so yeah, it totally fits this category, and it was my pick. Question number 7. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. This could be half my bookshelf, but the one that I went with is one that I've talked about on my channel before, and it is Revenge of the Witch by Joseph Delaney, the first book in the Last Apprentice series. I really want more people to read this series, if you can't tell. I absolutely love it. This book focuses on Gregory, who is the local spook. His job is to go out and either capture or kill different witches and boggarts and other kind of evil entities. And he is getting rather up in age, and he's needing an apprentice to take over his spot. So he's already gone through 29 failed apprentices, and Thomas Ward is his last hope. In order to be a spook, you have to be the 7th son of a 7th son. So Thomas's family sends him off to learn from the spook, and I just love this series because it's so fun to kind of learn about all the different monsters and things along with Thomas. It's so interesting to watch the kind of father-son dynamic develop between the spook and Thomas. Like I've said before, I think this book gave me major Harry Potter feels, not so much because the story is similar, but because of the way it's written. It just kind of unfolds like a Harry Potter book, and it's so magical and mysterious, but so much creepier than that. And honestly, I believe this is considered a middle grade book, and I would not have read this when I was younger. I would have been scared like to death of this book, but I absolutely love it, and I think more people should read it, and it is definitely dark and creepy and perfect for fall. Question number 8. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. Now, I could have gone with quite a few books for this as well, but I decided to go with a tried and true classic. I picked Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling because it is relatively short. I actually just reread this and it literally took me only like a day and a half. And this book has everything in it that I could possibly want, and I mean, it just for me has so many warm and heartwarming memories attached to it and so much happiness attached to it that whenever I see it or pick it up and read it, I just instantly feel better. So this would be the book I would recommend to someone. I mean, everybody knows what Harry Potter's about. It has a little bit of everything. It has friendship, it has action, it has happy moments and sad moments, and it's just the book that I would want to reach for and cuddle up with on a rainy day, and it's just such a special book for me. So this is the book I would pass on and recommend to someone if they were feeling down, because this is the book that always can cheer me up. Question number 9. Fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. This could be every book on my bookshelf because I am the worst when it comes to rereading books. I feel like there's always something new, or there's like a new series I want to start, and the favorites that I've already read are always going to be there, so I'm like, I'll get back to that later, and then I just never do, or I never finish series. So I could have literally picked any book on my shelf for this, but the one that I went to specifically was The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This, I guess, could have counted for a friend group that I'd want to join in as well, because who would not want to go on an adventure with The Fellowship of the Ring? But I actually have not reread this book in like a decade or something really long and crazy like that, and I don't even know why I haven't picked it up again. It's a little bit longer and more dense than a lot of the books I read on like an everyday basis, but this is one of my all-time favorite book series. I am such a fan of Lord of the Rings. J.R.R. Tolkien writes with this amazing humor and beautiful writing voice, and he crafts this world that is so easy to get lost in. And I just need to really go back and reread this series because it is phenomenal, and I have not read this book again in so long, and it's just been way too long. So this is definitely a favorite I want to go back and revisit very, very soon. Question number 10 is, fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. I don't really have a like set reading routine per se, because if there's a spare time anywhere at any time, I'm probably reading. I always have a book on my person in some way, shape, or form, so I don't particularly have like a particular reading ritual, I guess, but if I had to pick something, I guess I would pick either like a cup of coffee or a candle, because I do predominantly spend time reading in my room in bed, and I always have a candle lit because I love the nice warm glow that lends to the room and the atmosphere, and I just need coffee for my lifeblood, so I always have coffee. So I guess those would be essentials, but I don't really have a reading like routine per se, but if I was going to pick something, that's what it would be. Question 11 is share the autumn appreciation and tag some friends, and I'm actually not going to tag anyone specific because I honestly don't think anyone that I would tag would actually make a response video to this, but I guess I will just tag anybody who wants to do it to share your answers, and if you feel like it, you can leave your answers down below. If you don't want to make a video, I'd still really like to know your answers to the questions. I had a ton of fun answering all of these. They were so much fun, and it was quite a challenge to go through my bookshelves and try and find things that fit the different categories. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. If you're not already and you'd like to be, you can subscribe to my channel. I try to post at least once a week. And if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up so that I know that I'm doing a really great job. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video. I'm looking forward to it. Bye everybody.